This video is to show you the ins and outs of working with Microsoft PowerPoint 2007 to create the images and pictures to be used in the animations of the cycles of the Moon, Earth, and Sun. First, I always begin with the moon phases. That has the basic skills. The students will be learning new things in PowerPoint that they haven't done before, or they'll be learning to use some of the tools in PowerPoint in a different way than they have before. So it'll be a lot of new tricks to show them, a lot of right-click menus and things, so we'll take them through the steps one by one so that they're able to do this, and then we guide them through. So to start with the moon phases, we always start with a clean slide. When we open it up, we want to change a new PowerPoint. We want to change this so that it is a basic slide. So we come up to Layout, and we choose a blank slide, and that will make the boxes go away. I always tell the students the first thing that we need is to have a night sky background. So in order to do that, we have to go to Design to change the background. And we have these different styles, but we just want a solid dark black background, either a black or a very dark blue. So if we go over here to Background Styles and then Format Background, that's the old format background we're used to from the old PowerPoint. Keep it as solid fill, and you will just change the color to a very, very dark blue or a black. And then we'll close that, and we will be using this panel over here on the right side because we'll be duplicating slides as a way of making sure that everything stays in the same place and the same size. That's an important part of the animation, is that the objects themselves don't appear to change or move that much. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a full moon, and we teach the children to go to the Insert menu, and we're going to look for a shape. And then there is no circle. They're always looking for circle, but it really is an oval, but you just make that into a circle. So we talk about the plus sign as the drawing tool, and then we draw a nice big moon, as circle as we possibly can. And if we need to stretch it out on the sides to make it just perfect, then we can. And we'll move that as close to the middle as we can. We try to get them to make a moon that fills up the screen. A couple of things that we want them to be able to do is we want them to be able to change the color of the moon. So again, here, there's a couple of ways to do that. Under Drawing Tools, you'll get a bar here, or you can right-click on the shape itself and you can choose Format Shape from the bottom. What we're looking for is the shape fill. We want to give that a moon color. We'll let them sometimes choose a pale yellow, or some of them use a bright yellow, however they want to do it, but something like that. Very often they'll use a gray to be able to find that as well. So it's really their choice as long as it's appropriate. And we also want to change the outline. It's important to remove the outline, make that the same color as the background, so that when we change the shapes, we don't actually see what it is that we're doing. So we'll change the outline to match the background. So that's our full moon. We already have one of our pictures already done, and we're going to use this full moon to make a lot of the other shapes. So what we teach the children to do after this is to duplicate the slide over here in the Slides panel. If we right click on the slide, you'll see we have duplicate slide, and we can click on that, and now we have two full moons, which means that as we go from screen to screen, the moon doesn't appear to change. So whatever changes we make will appear like an animation when we bring it into the photo story. The easiest one to do next is going to be the first and third quarter moons. And so to do the first and third quarter moons, we are going to have to block out half of the moon, and so we are going to insert another shape, and this time we will use a rectangle, and we will draw that rectangle over half the moon. And the same as we did before, we will format the shape of the moon and change that color to match the background. And then we will also need to change the outline to match the background as well. And so when we click off, we will see that we have a half of the moon there. So that's going to be our first quarter moon right there. And then we duplicate that first quarter moon, and we just move that rectangle over to the other side, and we have our third quarter moon. So now we have 3 of our 8 moon phases already completed. So now we're going to do the next one, which is another easy one to do, and that's going to be the new moon. And simply by duplicating the full moon, so right click on the full moon in the panel and duplicate, then we have our full moon. And if we go back to our drawing tools and we change the fill of that shape to match the background, then we have our new moon. So that is another simple one for us to be able to do. One of the things that you can have students do as they go, or you can have them do at the end, is put the moon phases in sequence. It's important when we teach it that they understand the direction of the light and shadow as it moves across the surface of the moon. So we always talk about the light appearing first on the right side and moving across to the left, and same for the shadow, first appearing on the right side and moving across to the left. So this is a good activity for them to be able to sequence the phases of the moon. If you go to View and you can look at what's called the slide sorter, you'll be able to see all the phases of the moon. So we would have our full moon first, then we'd have our third quarter, then our new moon, and then our first quarter, and then we would only need to fill in the other details. We'll go back to normal so that those are now in the right order. So now we need our crescents and our gibbuses, and so we are going to use the full moon in order to be able to make those. The crescents, we can do those first. So again, you'll duplicate a crescent, a full moon, and then what we want to do is we want to somehow make that shape into a crescent. And we can make a new shape to go in its place, but then we have trouble getting it in exactly the right spot and get it to be exactly the right size. So the easiest way to do that is to cover it with another shape. For some of your higher level thinking kids, you could actually pose this to them as a challenge. What would you be able to do to this shape in order to be able to make it a crescent? So if we go back to Insert, Shapes, and we want to get another oval, then we will be able to create what looks like a crescent moon by covering that over like that. And so that is what you see in white will be able to be seen. So once we have that shape as we like it, then we go back to our drawing tools, fill the shape in as the same color as the night sky background, and then also the outline. And then when we click off there, we have our waning crescent, which we can move into its position in the sequence. In order to make a waxing crescent, we can duplicate the waning crescent, and then we will just slide that other shape over so that we have duplicated that on the other side. And so now we have our waxing crescent as well, and we can move that into the sequence. If we go back to View, into the slide sorter, we'll move that just to the other side of the new moon there. So all that remains are our gibbuses. So let's go back to our normal view. Now the gibbuses are kind of tricky because it's hard to make that shape by covering it up, so it's a little imperfect, but what we do is we simply just shrink down the full moon to an oval size. So it's not quite as perfect as we'd like, but it gets the job done. So we're going to duplicate our full moon once again, and then we are going to shrink it up on the right side for a waning gibbous. Again, the kids are supposed to understand that the shadow appears first on the right side of the moon. So it's very important that they get that right. So we'll shrink that up just like that, and you'll see that over here the shape right here on the edge is just kind of is a little bit imperfect, but it kind of gets the job done. So that is going to be our waning gibbous, and then we need to make a waxing gibbous, which would be the opposite. And so once again, back in our panel, we duplicate the full moon, and same thing this time, we're going to shrink it a little bit up on the left side. So that will be our waxing gibbous. And then as we go back to our slide sorter, we will just move that waxing gibbous into place right there after the first quarter moon, and then we have the 8 phases of the moon, just like that. Now we have to save this a couple of different ways. Your students won't finish the first time, so they will save this as a PowerPoint in their home directories. So we save it as a PowerPoint presentation, and I like to give it a meaningful name, and they'll save it. So that is once for as they're working on it. In order to be able to use these as pictures in PhotoStory for the animation, we have to save it again a different way. We have to save these as JPEG images to be able to be imported into PhotoStory. So if you click on the Office button and go to Save As, you'll choose Other Formats. We still have our file name Moon Phases, which will be important because it's going to create a folder with whatever is in this box right here. So we want that folder to be called Moon Phases. Where it says Save As Type, you will click on where it says PowerPoint Presentation, and you'll find a drop-down box. Scroll down in that box until you see JPEG File, and click that. Then choose Save. And when it asks you if you want to export every slide, yes, you want to export every slide. It will create a folder of them, and each image will be called slide 1, 2, 3, all the way to slide 8. So every slide ready to go. And now in my home directory, I now have a folder called Moon Phases with 8 images that are ready to go into Photo Story. So that is ready for us. The next one to try is going to be the cycle of the seasons. So we'll get ourselves a new presentation, all blank now that that one is saved. And like before, in the Home tab, if we go to Layout, we can clear out the text boxes and get a blank slide. So once again, we need to have a black background, which will be our out in space background. So under Design, we head over to Background Styles, and we can just choose here's a solid black one that we can choose right there. So now we need to put everything in place here, and for the cycle of the seasons, we are going to have the sun always at the center as everything moves around. So we'll insert our shape. We'll get ourselves a sun. It won't obviously be to scale here as well, so we'll get ourselves and put that in the middle. We'll want to make that yellow, so in our drawing tools, we go to Shape Fill. We can choose a color here, and our shape outline will need to be the same as the background, so we'll make that black, so that is also gone. Then we'll need to have our earth that we will have, so we'll need to insert that shape here as well, another oval. And in the way I've had the students write, they begin with where it's winter in the northern hemisphere, so the placement of the earth and the tilt of the axis is going to be important based on what they have seen. So we'll get ourselves an earth. It's not to scale, but we want to be able to put some details on it, so we'll be able to do that. So there's our earth. We'd like to be able to add some land to the earth, so we show the children how to do that because they may have never done that before. So under Insert, under Shapes, there is a free draw tool here. So it looks like when you hover your mouse over it, it says Scribble, and when you click on it, you'll get a little pencil, and they can do some free form continents if they like. There's one. And if we go back to Drawing Tools, we can fill that color with, we can make that kind of green, so it's the color of the land, and we can make ourselves another one. Insert Shape, Scribble, and that just adds a little bit to the complexity of what they are trying to do in the skill that is being used here. So we'll fill that shape there as well. Now, if we're showing the tilt of the Earth's axis, we're going to need to have an axis. So if we go back to Insert Shapes, we're going to draw a line that goes all the way through. So remember that plus means that it is a drawing tool. So we'll drag that right across, and they will try and approximate the angle as best they can. We're not going to measure it, but it should at least just look right there as well. We also would like to have an equator, because if they're going to be talking about the length of the amount of daylight and darkness that they have based on the position of the Earth around the Sun, then they'll need an equator probably to show that as well. And you may choose to do that for some of your higher level kids. So we'll draw that going straight across. And you can't really see that all that well, so we want to format that shape. That is the highlighted line right there. So if I go back to Drawing Tools, obviously I can't fill it, but I can change the outline. I'd like to make that black. And back under Shape Outline, if I wanted to make that thicker, I could do that also if I wanted to under Weight. I could make that a little bit thicker, and we can adjust that as needed there as well. So as before with the moon phases, we're going to be duplicating the slides, but there's going to be a new trick here for being able to move all of those pieces. So let's go ahead and do that first. Let's go over to our panel, and we will right click on the slide and duplicate it. And so now we have our next season. So if this is winter in the northern hemisphere, then we will be moving it to spring. Again, we emphasize with the children making sure that the motion of the Earth and its revolution around the Sun is that counterclockwise motion that they have been seeing in all of the animations and in everything that they've been looking at in their text and things. Now, if we were going to move each piece individually, then it won't be exactly where it is supposed to be. So what we want to be able to do is figure out a way to move everything all at once so that we have what looks like an animation, that the earth hasn't changed, but it's just moved. So the extra additional skill we add here is to highlight everything and move it all at once. So what we teach the children to do is click and drag a box around the earth and all the pieces attached to the earth, and now you see that every piece is selected, and then they can get their move tool, which is the four-way arrow here, and they would be able to move the entire earth with the continents, with the axis, with the equator all in place to its new position here, where it would be spring in the northern hemisphere and fall in the southern hemisphere. And when you click off of it, you can see it. So this is what the animation would look like. So the sun hasn't moved, the earth hasn't changed its shape or size or position of any of its pieces, but it's just now in a new place. And then we duplicate that slide again, highlight the entire earth, move it to its, and we undo. And this is where we teach the children how to do undo so they don't mess anything up too badly. Get that four-way plus. I got the sideways. And we'll move that to its position where it is summer in the northern hemisphere. And one more time we duplicate and we grab the earth and move it to its position where it is fall there as well. Now there are only 4 frames here, and once the first one is set up, it doesn't take long to do the other 3 obviously, but they will spend a lot of time making that first frame with the sun and the earth and all its pieces because there are a lot more details there. As we did before, we're going to save this PowerPoint because they'll need to work on it as well. We will call this Seasons, and they'll be able to bring that up and continue to work on it. Once it is complete, then we're going to need to save them as JPEG images for use in Photo Story. So we do Save As, Other Formats. Again, we have our Seasons in the box here, which is what we originally called it. And Save As Type, we're looking for JPEG down that list. We'll click Save, and yes, we would like to do every slide. And now we have a folder called Seasons that has 4 images in it that we will be able to use in Photo Story as well. So as you can tell, we're skill building, and so the next group, which would be shadows, will use all of the things that we've used so far for the moon phases and for the seasons, and we'll add some additional skills for these students as well. So we'll do shadows next. We're going to need a new presentation, and once again I changed the layout to blank. So we're going to have a daytime sky, or really a morning sky to begin with. This begins before sunrise. So we're going to format the background here with Design and Background Styles. And we can choose something that looks like a just before dawn kind of sky. You'll see children will usually choose some sort of medium blue for that, and they'll use a lighter blue for when the sun actually comes up. So we'll choose that. And then we're going to need to have some ground. We need something on the ground that will cast a shadow as we move the sun throughout. So if we insert our shapes, we can get ourselves a rectangle that we can draw. I usually will tell the children, get that bottom rectangle to be maybe about 1/3 of the whole slide, so that it gives them plenty of room to draw the shadow. If they make it too big, then they won't have room for the sun. If they make it too small, they really won't have room to change the shadow too much. So about the bottom third is nice. We want to change the fill of that, so in our drawing tools we go to Shape Fill, and let's give ourselves a ground color there as well. Now we need an object that is going to cast a shadow. The children love to choose things like flagpoles and mailboxes, and we have done those before, though they're rather tricky to do. Pyramids and Statue of Liberty and those types of things are a lot more difficult to do. So we tend to encourage them to go with a simple shape, but if they really are determined to do something more complicated, and you feel that they can handle that challenge, then it is okay to do that. So just a building here that we do, and some of them will take the time to do some extra detail. Let's fill that in a kind of a stone color, and some will go ahead and add windows or things to them, and that is okay as long as they don't spend all their time making windows, and they are able to focus on showing the cycle there as well. So we can have some windows there in the building. If they were really wanting to be careful, they could make one window and copy and paste their windows so that they were all identical. I find most children aren't that picky about it, but but I am. So here is our before sunrise frame right here. So we have no sun and no shadow. It's important that they understand that and be able to explain that there is no shadow. And this is a good place for them to talk about why objects cast shadows when the sun is in the sky. So once again, we're going to duplicate this frame. So now we have, this will be our at sunrise frame right here. So one of the things that they're going to need to do is to lighten the sky because the sun is coming up. So under Design, in Background Styles and Format, we'll keep a solid fill, but we'll choose a lighter blue here so that, it could be a little too light, a lighter blue, so that there will be a difference between the two. And now we're going to need also a sun. So we get back to our shapes and we choose our oval. We have our plus sign, which means we have a drawing tool. If they really wanted to have that sun peeking up over the horizon, they could. You'd be able to stack the images that way, but leaving it just above the horizon would be fine. And of course we want to fill that shape with a sun color, and we want to make the outline the same as the background for the sky there, so we don't have a line around the sun. So now we need to add a shadow. And this is one of the tricky things to be able to do. So again, we're going to go back to Insert, Shapes, and we'll be looking for the parallelogram shape here under the basic shapes. And this requires some playing around here as well. So students should have drawn on their storyboard that this is a long, narrow shadow that is pointing in the opposite direction from the sun. And it should be pretty long and pretty far to the left. So they're going to take that shape, like they'll have to draw it out to the side, and then you'll have to model for them how to do it. And the simplest way to do that is to bring the bottom corner out where they want it to be, and they'll know that doesn't look right. And this is where you tell them about this yellow diamond, which they may not have known what it was, or at least known, they may have not known it was there, or definitely not what it was for. And so this is where you can actually change some of the details of the shape. So as you drag that yellow diamond back in, you can make that the actual width of the base of the building, and there's your long shadow. Tell the children that you should be able to draw a straight line from the shadow through the object to the sun, and that's a good way of knowing where the shadow would be. Of course, we're going to want to make this look like a shadow, so go to Drawing Tools and fill that shape with a black, and we're going to make the outline black as well so that you have a long shadow. So that is our sunrise. Now we're going to duplicate this second slide because it already has the sun in it and the sky the correct color, so we will duplicate that. And now we have a mid-morning shadow, so we are going to first move our sun to mid-morning, and again the students will have done this all on their storyboard, and this is where they adjust the shadow. They should be aware that the shadow as the sun moves through the sky is going to get shorter, and it is also going to get wider as it moves from left to right across the screen. So that is what you're looking for in that. So you're looking for the shadow moving to the left. You're looking, let me undo that. The shadow is moving to the left, and it is going to be a bit narrower there, and it's going to be wider. So you're looking for something that kind of looks like this. Yeah. And we can narrow it up this way. So again, they're really playing with it, and this is the hardest one because you're really looking for a couple of things. You're looking for it getting wider, you're looking for it moving from left to right, and you're also looking for it getting shorter, and so they'll really will have to manipulate that as they go through. All right. Duplicate that slide again for our midday, and here they're going to make that into a solid rectangle that comes straight down. So they will bring that yellow diamond all the way out and then shrink the shape down this way while shortening it there. So that'll be our midday shadow. Duplicate again. You'll have your mid-afternoon, and this is the tricky one, and this is the trick that the kids think is amazing when you show it to them. They think you know everything when you show it to them, because the diamond cannot go any further to the left. You cannot change that. All you can do is make it go this way again. So that is a problem, isn't it? Right? Now what I normally will do is I will have the kids duplicate the mid-morning, since this is going to be a mirror of that, and the shadow's already the right size and shape, it's just in the wrong direction. So if you duplicate that and move the sun straight across to mid-afternoon, then we tell the children all they need to do in this trick is resize the shadow down You pull it all the way through to the other side. And that is how you reverse the angle, and then you just slide it back down so it is now under your building. Like that. So now you have your midday. And again, in slide sorter, like with the moon phases, you'll be able to put that in the right direction. Same thing for the sunset. And duplicate that slide. Move the sun over. And again, you're going to pull this all the way through to the other side, and then slide it back so that it fits. And we're going to need to use the diamond for that to bring that shape out. And finally, at sunset, will look a lot like sunrise, so we can duplicate that slide. If we go back to our view and slide sorter, we'll be able to put those all in the proper order now. So we have our before sunrise, sunrise, we have mid-morning, and we have our midday, our mid-afternoon, our sunset, and our after sunset. Again, save the PowerPoint. Students will want to save it as a PowerPoint so they can continue to work on it and make changes if needed. And when it is all complete, you'll save it as those JPEG pictures. So the Office button, Save As, Other Formats. Again, we have our shadows here, and when it says PowerPoint presentation, we want to change that to JPEG format, and click Save. And yes, we'd like to do every slide. The last set of slides that needs to be done would be for the stars in the night sky, the constellations, if that was one that you chose to do. It's one of the more difficult ones to explain the motion and also to have enough to write about, but it is a good animation. So it builds on the things that we've already done, so we'll get ourselves a new presentation. And once again, when we go to Layout, get ourselves a blank slide there. We need a night sky, so that's under Design, with background styles, and we'll get ourselves a night sky. And for this animation, what we normally show is just the Big Dipper rotating around Polaris, around the North Star. So we're going to need 7 stars. So we teach the kids to make 1 star. I'm sorry, we need 8 stars, and we teach the kids to make 1 star and then duplicate it so that the stars are all the same size and exactly the same shape. Again, that's another trick. So we insert a shape, and we get an oval, and we'll get ourselves our North Star, and we'll try and get that as close to the middle as we can. And with it selected like that, with the dots around the outside, we'll go to our drawing tools and fill that shape. We'll make that a yellow, and we'll make the outline black to match the background. Then we'll select that shape, and we'll show the kids how to copy and paste it. So we'll go over to Home, and they'll click on Copy, and then we have them click off, and then they'll click. So that's going to be our North Star. They'll need 7 more stars for the Big Dipper, so we'll have them click Paste 7 times. So then we'll move the stars to their location where they need to be to make the Big Dipper. We always make sure that they are putting their Big Dipper so that the outside edge points to the North Star, just like it really would. And then we also want to make sure that they have the handle going off in the proper direction, and seeing if they can get it to look as much like the Big Dipper as they can there as well. So that would be their Big Dipper. So we're just going to do 4 animations here, 4 different pictures with it. In each position it would be basically 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 9 o'clock as it moves around. But to get it to do that is a little bit tricky. So of course we'll duplicate this slide in our panel, right click and duplicate. And the trick here is, if we try to do like we did with the seasons, where we highlight all of the stars and then move them as a group, we don't have that actual rotation like we need. So this is a little bit of a different challenge. So what we have to teach them to do is highlight all of the objects in the group, the 7 stars in the Big Dipper, and then group them together so it becomes one thing, and then we can rotate it. So under Drawing Tools, there is going to be an option for something called Group, and it's a little drop down box. So if you click on it and you choose Group, then those 7 separate stars now become one image, one picture that can then be moved. And now we'll be able to move it as a group, but because it's one picture, we have this green dot
which we didn't have before, and that is going to allow us to rotate it, and we want to make sure that they rotate it correctly so that the motion, almost like it is moving up and around like that. And if they're paying careful attention, they should be making sure, once again, that the outside edge of the Big Dipper is directly in line with the North Star right here in the center. So that's one thing to be looking for in their animation. And we continue to duplicate, and we've already made it one, so it's very easy to go in and grab the outside and use that green dot to rotate it back around, and then slide it back over to line up. And then the last time, once again, duplicate and move it over to the side, rotate it. And again, you're going to be looking for making sure that the students don't invert the image, that they don't rotate it in the wrong direction, so that it does actually look like it's going around there, because they could possibly do it the wrong way, and that's not what you're looking for. You're going to make sure they get it in the right way. Once they have all four the way it should be, then just like the others, you'll save the PowerPoint presentation and call that Stars or Big Dipper. That is as they continue to work on it. And then finally, in order to get the images that we'll be needing for Photo Story, once again you go to Office button, Save As, and choose Other Formats. We'll keep our name Stars, but for PowerPoint presentation as the type, we were looking in the drop-down box for JPEG. And save, and once again, every slide. So now you have all of the images that you will need for Photo Story for the 4 different types of animations that you have, and your groups will be working on different ones of these. And we'll talk about how to pull them into Photo Story and make them actually transition in the next video.